Hello,
Hello,
I'm Vinay, and this is
Rumi,
and welcome to another edition of
to Diet Teachers.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that we've actually just sat here and probably spent 45 minutes talking to each other about.
Yes.
But it's something that we feel like we're going to have just a
Sorry.
little conversation about, and that's cultural awareness in the classroom. So we're going to start this conversation by, I'm just going to read a little blurb of something that I found as to why this is an important topic. And let me put this disclaimer out there right now. This is not going to be a conversation about race relations.
No.
This has nothing to do with that. All right. I want to start out before, people feel any angst. This is not about race. So I'm just going to read this straightforward. It says, there has been a lot of research that shows that we as teachers bring our personal lives experience into the classroom. It oftentimes guides how we relate and teach our students. This is not a bad thing in itself. However, it can become problematic if we don't take into account that our students may not have had some same or similar experiences, or that they may not have the same values, traditions, or beliefs that we may have. And that's where cultural awareness comes in, because culture basically is talking about your beliefs, your traditions, your values that you have now or that you grew up with or something along that nature. And we have to understand that when those 20 some odd bodies walk into our classroom, theirs may not be the same as yours.
No.
And we cannot.
Usually not.
Yeah. And we have to be aware of what's walking in the door, because it just makes for an easier day.
And it's respectful.
Yeah.
It's a respect. The same way that you demand as a teacher to be respected, you need to know the background, especially the background of values and traditions of your kids, so you can respect those.
And I think it makes it a lot easier, especially if you are one of those persons that you get a class and you're dealing with discipline issues.
Mm-hmm.
And you are looking at the student and you're making an assumption that they're being this way because of this certain thing, without having delved into that child and knowing, like she said from the beginning, knowing that child, there can be 1,000 reasons why this child comes to school and acts the way that they do. And so in order for you to reach that child, and this is not in all cases, but in order for you to reach the child, I need to know a little bit about that child's culture. I don't know, if I don't know what they're dealing with at home when they leave the school, that could be a problem for me. Now, the more I know about their home life, what's going on in their house, helps me understand how I need to deal with that child when they come in. And I just threw that out there.
And interestingly now, when you talk about cultural background, and you simply don't understand some kind of behavior in the kids, you will never have any kind of relationship. You will never build anything, because it feels like you are attacking them or they're attacking you. And it's simple. You just have to understand that what you're thinking, it's not going to be the absolute truth when it comes to values for every single one of the students in your classroom. And I'm going to throw an example on that one. So for me, from where I'm coming, I grew up with the understanding that if an adult is talking to me, I cannot look at them straight in their eyes and just forget about rolling eyes. That does not happen. My head needs to be down. Sometimes my eyes are closed and I'm not allowed to speak. That's part of my culture. That's the way that we show respect to our elderly and to authority. So when I'm talking to a kid, I never asked them to look at me. And yet, I have been asked, why are they not to look at you? That's a respect thing. For me, it's exactly the opposite thing. I'm not asking them because it's not in me. I know you can hear me when I'm talking to you because with that voice, you don't have to look at me. For me, actually, looking in the face straightforward was a sign of rebellion. So that it's not happening. I don't have a problem with that. Now, the other part as a teacher, that's my background applied to the classroom, and sometimes I say it as a joke, but I don't even think when I'm doing it. I can line up my classroom in a line to be out of the classroom in exactly 6 seconds. But guess what? I come from an ex-communist country. Guess what we did when I was in school? We lined up and marched like crazy. So for me, that is very easy thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not respecting that. So, you know, it just imposing my part, my background of the cultural background.
And you know that I think that's a perfect example, because I was having a conversation with her before about a student that I had, you know, here in America. And you know, one of those things I had to know about him, he was an Asian student, and his parents were traditional. So one of the things that he could not do was look me in the face. So because I knew that in talking with his parents, I knew that one of the things that they do was not look at an adult in their face. So it would have been counterintuitive, is that the right word?
Yes.
For me,
Yes,
for me
definitely.
to say to him, look at me when I'm talking to you, when I full well know that in his culture is being disrespectful. So sometimes we just assume, because this is what we do in our culture, that everybody that walks in our room does the same thing. And it's not always the case. You know, some head coverings, if that's their culture, I need to be okay with it, and it should not cause me any problem. And how I look at it, and like I was telling her earlier, if it's not prohibiting the student from doing what they're supposed to do in my classroom, it should not bother me.
No.
And that's my own personal opinion. It shouldn't bother me.
No.
Because you wear this, you only eat this, you can only, you know, do this. Shouldn't bother me as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do in the classroom. And even in small nuances, because I was just telling her, we were in a professional development on Tuesday, and the person that was doing the professional development told a story about a teacher she had met that as a child moved from the Midwest to Mississippi. And she got into trouble because when the teacher asked her for a response, she said yes. And she got in trouble for not saying yes, ma'am. And I was tickled because I'm from the Midwest, and I did not have to say yes, ma'am, or no, sir. You know, no, ma'am, no, yes, sir. We only had to say yes or no. We could not say yeah, you know, we couldn't answer like that. We had to say yes or no, but we were not forced to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. So I'm thinking about who that person was, and I'm like, I would have been in the same predicament. When I went to college in Tennessee, and everybody said yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And even I had to look around like, what in the world? And I made the adjustment, but it wasn't something that I grew up with. So, you know, I shouldn't be in the classroom yelling at a kid, say yes, ma'am, say no, ma'am, you know, and that kind of thing, if that's not their culture, because you're making them be disingenuous to themselves. And you are, as she said earlier, in my opinion, again, disrespecting their culture.
Yes.
You know, now I understand that in every school we have certain things that maybe the principal or the district or whatever, they want the students to address you a certain way. I remember one year everybody was a friend. You know, yes, friend, no, from you. You call everybody a friend. You know, and that was something I had to get past, but that was a school initiative. So we went along with it. But we do have to respect one another's culture. One of the big things, you know, that you hear teachers talking about all the time is the kids that come to school and say, well, my mom said if somebody hit me, hit them back. I can't can't say anything about that because I don't run your household. But I do have to have a conversation with both the student and the parent and let them know I respect that that's how you run your household. But I need you to know that it may not work in your favor at school, because at school the rules are A, B, C, and D. But I have to find a way to bridge those two beliefs so that we can function harmoniously throughout the day.
No, you have to know your kids. And if you sit down and talk with the parents, because obviously you cannot know every single one of the cultures that we have. This country is built with different cultures. But if you talk to the parents and just straightforward tell them, say, listen, I want to know what is culturally accepted for you and what is not, so I'm not going to infringe of that. You will probably hear that for a lot of students that are coming from the mid-European countries, taking off their shoes for was it shoes, no shoes days, whatever it is, it's not acceptable. And in the same time, if you have students for the Nordic countries in Europe, they will take off their shoes without any kind of problem, and if you are in a bilingual classroom where majority of your kids come from a Hispanic background, you will notice that the girls, when they speak to you, the voice level is very, very low, but that's how it's acceptable in their culture. They are not loud, they're not, especially the girls probably were around 10 to 15. If they're loud, they're not considered good girls. So they will talk to you in a very low voice, and then you have to, I can't hear you. And if you have a hearing problem like me, then it becomes like you have to find some kind of comfortable, compromising thing to work in the classroom. It's very interesting that when we talk about cultures, it probably you have to look at what the traditions is saying. Okay, so some things we can live without any kind of problem. That you just have to know it, because truth to be told, I have jumped the rope because I don't know where it is. So did I mess up? Yes. Did I apologize? Yes. But it's because I didn't have the knowledge of that one, of that cultural thing. Once I get it, and let me tell you, the parents were very gracious about that. But let me tell you how it is and why it is, and then we all laughed at it. And okay, so now I can see it. It should have been a perfect viral YouTube video with me doing that. But I mean, you need to ask. That's what I learned. Look at them. You can ask the kids. And then in a special moments when, instead of not celebrating Christmas, you can celebrate every single culture in your classroom. It's the inclusive part. The respect that I see is just ask and try not to impose or your own views. I mean, God help my kids if I go with the communist understanding of everything.
Right.
It's like, no.
And when we're talking about this, we're not only talking only about holidays and that kind of thing. You just have to understand that you may believe one thing this way, somebody else may believe it this way.
Yeah.
We can agree to disagree. We don't even have to have those conversations unless it's necessary. But it's not for me as a teacher to use my authority to make a person do it this way. Don't cause controversy when you don't have to. Because we're not going to all believe the same thing. We're not going to all understand things the same way. We're not going to all react to certain circumstances the same way. But we have to be okay with that. And I think what she said, the biggest part of all of this is knowing your students having a conversation and coming to common ground. It's may not be an easy thing to do, but it's an easy thing to do.
It is an easy thing to do.
You know, and even if you get in a situation, you know, like both of us have been, where you did something and the reaction to what you did, you don't understand why did you react this way. That may be the time where you have to have the conversation that you maybe, you know, didn't think to have earlier, and you'll know for the next time. This could be a make or break in your classroom. Especially depending upon the ages of the students and how different or where they may have come from. Because if you're talking about students that have just come from other countries, you know, there may be a bigger difference than me coming from Kansas to Texas. Me calling it pop and you calling it soda. You know, it can be as subtle as that. But it's a difference. And because I say pop and you say soda, doesn't make you right and me wrong, or vice versa. So we have to learn or be open to, you know, accept these things.
And some things are very, very easy. I mean, listen, I understand all of those techniques of track the speaker and look for the attention. And I get it. I understand that. But if there is one kid that it's not, what is going to happen? Nothing. It's not a big deal. I mean, I know by my own experience that if I'm not looking at you, does not mean that I'm not hearing you. It's straightforward. It does not mean that I'm not hearing you. Actually, I will avoid looking at you and I will turn to the side, because that's how it is, but I can repeat every single one of your words. It's not a sign of disrespect. And if of all of your class, it's just 1 or 2 or 3 kids. So what's the problem? Like we said, pick up your battles and always think that your way of doing it, because that's how your family did it for years and years and years and generations and generations, that does not mean that it's the only way to be done and accepted. So just kind of open. I'm going to be ridiculous. I want to say open your heart. Say cuteness. Open your heart. Straightforward. And it's just understand that the person in front of you, especially the kid in front of you, it's not there to insult you. It's not there to revolt against you. We have problems with the discipline sometimes, but it's not cultural at all. So if there's something like this, there is no problem with that. I mean, there's some kind of, how many times we go in pre-K and say, crisscross applesauce. And they have to say it like this, but then there's specific places in the world like this sitting is unacceptable. And we always say, well, this is how the kids in China sit. Not true. They actually kneeling and then sitting. So how did it came to be like, you know, is it really the point of how they're sitting? If they're sitting and working? I mean, I'm just saying, I'm one of the teachers that I really don't care where you're sitting. You can sit on the table, under the table, while you're working and making miracles in my classroom, you know, but just, you know, just accepting that we're different. And my way, it's not always the best way, or my way will be a little bit more colorful, more colors. If I accept somebody's way and we kind of combine it. I mean, I just said putting in a line my class in 6 seconds, and we can walk in a line like nobody else. But why not walking as an Egyptian and dance around? I mean, you can do that. It's not something that it should be. I don't see it's a big problem. I think in America, where this country is built on the basis of different societies and different traditions.
It's truly a melting pot.
The melting pot. So you just have, first of all, expect to have somebody with different culture than yours, and then be acceptable to that one.
And also understand the culture change can be from street to street, from neighborhood to neighborhood.
True.
They don't have to come from another country or anything. They can just come from another block. You know, they can just come from across town or whatever. And the things that they do over there may not be the things that are done on the side of town where you happen to be. They could be different, but there's no need to make a thing of it. How can we work together? And the flip side of that is, let's stay authentic. Let's not overdo it.
Yes,
Let's not
overdo it.
overdo it, because then that's almost like, in my opinion, how I feel, it's like making a mockery of them.
Yeah.
So let's not overdo it either. Just let's find the common ground and just know we're not all the same.
Mm-mm.
You could have 7 sisters and brothers like I do, and have grown up with the same parents in the same house, and you still have differences of opinions, differences of how you do various things in your house versus how your sister or brother may do it in their house. And it's okay. Let's just learn how to live with that and not turn it into a thing. We see too often today, we turn these into things, and they don't have to be a thing. We can all coexist.
Yeah, too much of that. Let's do everybody needs to do that uniform thing. It's not going to work like this. The kids in your classroom, like it or not, they will go back to the family culture.
Yeah.
That's it is what it is. On this one, it is what it is. And you might as well have fun with it. You can learn a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah. So I didn't want to go too deep into this because this could really turn into a thing. But we just wanted to briefly throw that out there because it's a real thing. You have to be aware of your cultures. People do things differently, period. They do things differently. Everybody's not going to do it the same way that I do it, and I have to be okay with that and understand that I have to figure out how to work around that. So I think we're going to leave it there, and once again, you can leave us any comments or any questions on our page, and we'll be glad to respond to you. But if it's an ugly comment, we're not responding. I'm just going to throw that out there because I know this is one of those topics that can turn ugly really quickly. And so if it's an ugly comment, we won't be responding.
No.
And I just put that out there. But we would be glad to hear from you. All right. I think that's it for us today. We're signing out until we see you next time. Bye.
Bye.